Beyond the headlines now with sociologist Nicole Curato and Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility, or CMFR Board Chairman Vergel Santos. Sir and Nicole, thank you for being here.
Good evening.
Okay, would you like to start? You have this look on your face. What is happening now? What is happening to Rappler?
Well, there's only one way to understand what's happening today, and it should be from the perspective that is informed by the character of this regime. And the character of this regime is marked by intolerance and a predisposition toward authoritarianism. This is harassment. What else? I mean, when the president says he has nothing to do with it, I mean, please remember that it is not only once, but twice or probably more times that the president himself has expressed raging displeasure toward Rappler, the Inquirer, and other media organizations. I mean, and it has been reported and not denied that it was the Office of the Solicitor General that pointed SEC to the Rappler case, and that SEC itself consulted with the Department of Justice about the case. And now Mr. Kalida and Mr. Aguirre happen to be the frontline enforcers of this government. How else do you look at this thing?
How else do we look at this thing, Nicole?
Of course, the
How do you look at
conversations,
this thing?
the conversations we see at the moment is that some would say the law is the law and Rappler simply has to comply. But of course, there are questions we need to ask. For example, why did this grab the attention of the Solicitor General? Of all companies that they can possibly ask the SEC to investigate, why focus on Rappler? And I think legal procedures are never politically innocent. We always have to ask the underlying motivations why they're looking into this company. And I think there's a broader context in which people like Vergel, who are media practitioners, are very alarmed by this. And this is the context. You have a president who openly threatened the newspaper of record for tax evasion charges. You have a president who openly threatened a major media network, threatened them because they swindled his advertising money and that they never aired his advertisements, and they're threatened to not have their franchises renewed. These are words from the president himself. And I think this is one of the first concrete manifestations of a media organization that was called out by the president in a speech that's starting to suffer some consequences of this so-called harassment.
Okay, Nicole, when you say why Rappler of all the companies, what are you saying? That other companies also have PDRs, which is what Rappler used?
Well, it opens up that conversation. And on the one hand, of course, I welcome this debate about control of media. Who's allowed to control Philippine media? What do we mean when we say control of companies? But on the other hand, the political question here is, why pick on this one? Why did this grab the Solicitor General's attention? Why is it so important? And then, of course, when we talk about revoking the license of a media organization or of a company, we also ask the question of the implications. What message does it send? It can't just be an issue of the law is the law. It's also about the story that this government wants to deliver. What's the message here?
Okay, but can we tackle muna yung the law is the law na? Or even if you say na
the law,
pure harassment, but yung the law na nga, no?
There are two types of interest. There are two types of interest involved here. One is shareholder interest, which is precisely the business of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the other is the larger and higher public interest, which is served by press freedom. By the way, that freedom is fundamental to democracy, and that freedom, in fact, cannot be abridged by any law. I mean, that is clearly a higher freedom. I cannot understand why this shareholder issue should not be sorted between SEC and Rappler without having to shut down Rappler. I don't quite understand this.
Sorted out meaning pwede namang ayusin.
Yes,
Taka muna, ayusin nyo yung business nyo.
You have this
Bakit
problem.
ganyan?
Why close Rappler? What damage has Rappler done to shareholder interest that is so great that it calls for shutting down Rappler? I can't quite understand this.
Hindi ba yun yung kumbaga penalty for what they supposedly did?
No, it doesn't say that. It's a penalty. I mean,
the reason why I ask also because, you know, some people would say na para bang nahanapan ng butas eh. Parang ganon. May ganon ba?
Oh, yes.
Is there that thinking?
Yes.
But I think that's the political aspect of this. Bakit mo hahanapan ng butas yung isang media organization? Whereas there are a lot of other companies who probably have some technical issues as well. And if you start digging into companies' different records, then you will really see something. So I think that's one part of it. And then the next part of it is a test of our legal system. Of course, in the source earlier this morning, CEO Maria Ressa said, of course, we will comply with all the legal requirements. Of course, we will go through the process. But I think the implication here is everyone feels alarmed that can you trust this regime to really deliver the rule of law in this case.
By the way, the dispute has not been resolved with finality. Huh? I mean, in effect, SEC is simply accusing Rappler of doing something effectively. You know? And therefore, it has to go through the whole process, which I think Maria is prepared to go through herself. I mean, but why shut down a news organization when there is no... Why is the SEC so hot on closing Rappler? I can't understand. And I only understand that when I look at the character of this regime. You know, it's a regime that cannot abide dissent. I mean, that's clear now. Not abide dissent. It is a regime that has warned us about martial law and revolutionary
when you say cannot abide dissent, for example, kanina, no, we heard President Duterte being asked by a reporter, what does this mean? Ano yung message if you're not, if you criticize the administration, then you get into trouble? And then he says, well, you criticize me all the time. Why are you complaining now that I'm criticizing you?
Yeah, you see.
What is that?
No, it's so easy to say something like that. But if you look at the way the president said it, I mean, with every cast phrase, that you cannot believe that the president does not really mind being criticized.
We'll have to continue this discussion in just a bit about SEC's decision against Rappler. Stay tuned to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headline.